Now, just one of the ways that we engage the students with plants, and that is through story, and that has been mentioned already in the symposium. How story can, like, we're not talking about getting children rote learning or learning off names of plants and facts and figures and all of that. It's certainly not the way to go, and it's not the way I learned my nature going to school. It was through continuous engagement, repetition, that you eventually came to know the plant as a companion, as a friend, something you wouldn't destroy or do anything like that to. So I think, telling children the story behind even a common plant like a daisy or a yarrow growing on the side of the road, or even in the school grounds, it just brings the plant alive. And Des, I think, is going to link in there to our blog on Engage with Nature, just to show you the little things that can bring a yarrow, for example, to life.
And just to say there too, Paddy, there, that within the blog of taking into account the use of different senses, as well as the images, the written text, there's also an audio version of each of the blogs.
Go down there to the yarrow, which is a member of the daisy family. By the way, all the images, nearly 99% of the images on this blog are in an area on the road here outside my house in Kildare. I suppose an area of about kilometre by, a few kilometres down the road. I have a crossroads beside me here. So that's where I walk my dogs every morning and take the photos. So it just unfolds. But there you have the yarrow, or ahar haloon, or los na fuller. There's so much just in the name. Like yarrow is supposed to come from the two Old English words, ye arrow, because if you look at the leaves on the yarrow, they are pinnated and divided. If you look at the leaves there, like the feather at the base of a shaft of an arrow, so it became ye arrow. If you look at the Irish word for it, so much meaning in ahar haloon, the father of the earth. Isn't it just amazing? There are so many cures attributed to yarrow that it became known. Why not Mahar haloon? I don't know. Mother of the earth, I think, would be more appropriate. But ahar haloon, and it especially on the staunching of blood. Now, if we look at the Latin there, millifolium. Like, there's history in the name.
Sorry.
It comes from Achilles, who was supposed to have used plant to staunch the bleeding from the wounds of his soldiers. And then millifolium means it has lots and lots of divided leaves. So, like, you have 4 stories there, just on the English and Irish name of the plant. And Des, can you bring up the other piece there on just something you can set up in your localities? Is it the one on the Salisbury Bee? Is that one available, Okay, Des, you can take that one off, that image. So someone has written lots of yarrow in my garden. The course, by the way, in that we held in the local village centre in our clock, which is the old school, it was open to parents. And I think one of our most enthusiastic contributors and one of participants was a local parent who had 3 children. And she shows us constantly the learning that goes on with them and with herself. Just wonderful, the joy and the sharing that this lady does with us. Is Grania?
I am here. I'm here. Can you hear me?
I just get Des there to bring up the little blog on I think the solitary bee, or yeah, was it the solitary bee? Yes. Des, does that ring a bell there? Maybe leave it so if it's.
You need to screen share, Des.
People can go into the website themselves and look at Engage with Nature.
Yeah. I'm actually on the website here. I might screen share my own one.
It's
so I'm here.
Solitary bees.
So I'm on January, February, March, April. So if you can direct me where to go.
I have.
No, it's a blog. We can leave it because time is running out, isn't it? Yeah. Now, can you scroll down there to the picture, Des, of the one in my garden? And any school and any parent could set this up. You can see it here. Now, go back up, please. The parent shared that picture. She was out with her children on the farm, and a solitary bee, that's the picture on the left, was trying to get a leaf, a petal of a flower into the tube to provide a barrier to the chamber in her nest. And that's a video that she took, and she would never have known about the bees only for that. And if you look at the box on the left, now it absolutely astonishes me, all the different type of things that are called bug hotels. I hate the word with a passion, because a bug is a type of insect. It's not a solitary bee by any means. And some of these things, anyway, they're neglected and they get covered up with dirt and spiders, and we come into them and they lose their function. The bee, the box has to be, the diameter of the entrance holes has to be between 2 mil and 10 mil, and they have to be without completely smooth for the bees to use it, and it has to be up about a meter from the ground and facing the south. So if you look at this particular one, you can open the little trap door and look into it and look at the occupants. Can you just go down a little bit, Des? Scroll down. Yeah. Now, isn't that fantastic? On the left, you can see where the mason, or the bee has finished filling up the cavity with cakes of pollen and nectar. So what she does is she comes in and she flies into the cavity and leaves a little cake of pollen and nectar, and then seals makes a chamber by sealing it with mud, and goes all the way out to the entrance, sealing each chamber with mud. The males then emerge on the front, from the front of the chamber, and the females at the back. Now, you can see the ones that are occupied. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them have been sealed. Now, if you open the door, then you can see what's happening inside. You can see the cakes of pollen and nectar, and some of them you can actually see the little grubs emerging for their cake. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful, simple tool to have in your garden, any garden, whether you're in the high rise in the city or in the country, for children and adults to observe. Okay, Des, thanks very much for that one. Grania, do you want to ask some of the questions there?
I do. Yeah. I have a question here from Anya, and she says, it sounds like an amazing course that would really give teachers confidence teaching these topics, and I think that's true. Have Maura and Claire, indeed yourself and Des, have any ideas to how to engage teachers both in the staff room and I guess on other, on ITE courses that don't have the interest, or that, like how do we catch them into the net if they're not already predisposed to it? And also, I mean, sometimes I think just giving them a good idea for content, like, you know, really kind of hammering home that there's a lot of content to be able to be taught here, but you just have to have confidence not to be, you know, I don't want to answer the question, but I'll let you go ahead.
I mean, my bit, and Maura and Claire can add on theirs, but I actually think everybody is connected to nature. Right? I don't use the word at all. I think everyone has an innate or a connection to nature. And as some people on the blog or the chats there have shown, that COVID has shown us that nature has saved us, has saved the adults and the children. So I prefer the word engage, you know, because everyone's connected, but they mightn't know how to engage, either through lack of knowledge, which is not the problem really, but maybe just feeling a little bit overwhelmed by the whole thing. So that is the problem. I would ask Maura and Claire, how do you stop? Teachers are overwhelmed in the classrooms at the moment, and sometimes the teaching gets lost, or the trees get lost in the forest.
Yeah, do you want to go first, Maura? Or?
Well, my own experience in school is that, you know, there's maybe twice or three times a year when teachers have gone out and engaged. Maybe September, you know, you might have an opportunity, or October when there's berries and things, teachers will engage. Might get a little bit more in the spring, and then everybody is out doing, you know, about mini beasts in May and whatever else. But to get them engaged long term, one of the things that we did as part of updating our school policy was to suggest that every teacher would put up a nature table in the classroom at least 4 or 5 times a year. That is written into our science policy. The other thing that I found was that, you know, sharing your own ideas. If you're enthusiastic about it, you know, it's great to be able to share those ideas with the other teachers, and maybe through your enthusiasm, you'll bring them along. You know, bringing in experts into the school at times has also helped. And just, I find like teachers will come to me at times and they'll ask me for ideas, or, you know, give them useful websites or whatever else. And it's your enthusiasm that kind of will also engage. But children themselves are just fantastic. I was a student of Paddy's back in Marino, 2003, 2004. And one of the things he suggested was never let an opportunity pass. And, you know, so in the last year, I found a buzzard on the roadside as I was coming to school. So I picked it up and brought it in. Well, I was educated by some children in my class. In one of the classes, I happened to bring it into, because I shared it with other classes. And there was a guy, a young boy in the class, and he was there saying, "Oh, Mrs. O'Dwyer, that's fantastic. It's a perfect species." And it was amazing, the actual knowledge that children will have as well. So to give teachers confidence that they don't have to be expert. I think that's very, very important. But I think, you know, courses like what Paddy is proposing to have online will also be of great benefit, you know, and it's just to, I think it's more confidence that teachers need to realize, like, you don't have to have all the answers and so on, but the curriculum as it stands is ridiculous, because it really is, you know, or as I see what's happening in schools is we're going, you know, strand unit, strand unit, and it's trying to tick the boxes to get the different strands and strand units teach. So I certainly would be in favour of nature as a standalone subject. And as you quite rightly said, during lockdown, the amount of parents and the children who got out and engaged, you know, and did a bit of gardening or whatever else was so you know, heartwarming to see. And I think if anything comes out of this time is that, you know, maybe we will be going back to what it was like, you know, when we were going to school, that you knew all the birds, you know, the native birds, you knew all the plants and so on. And I'd like to think that's where we're going.
Claire, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maura. Very interesting.
Yeah, I just kind of leading on from Maura's insight there, I suppose I admit when I started teaching, I was quite young and I probably was overwhelmed by the curriculum. Nature-based education wasn't at the forefront for me, but as my experience in the classroom grew, and as my life experience grew, I think it was mainly my life experience, I realized the importance of nature. And when I look back at my childhood, I realized that I'd spent quite a lot of my time outdoors through horse riding, and I actually my undergraduate degree is in geography, so it was always there, but I didn't realize its importance. And it was through my own personal awareness of the importance of nature, and that was how I ended up bringing it back to the classroom. And I realized, well, if I needed this in my adult life, these children are also going to need these skills in their adult lives as well, or they may need them. So that really motivated me to start engaging in nature-based education and the forest school approach. Initially, when I started kind of engaging in nature-based education and the forest school approach in my own school, I had teachers looking out the window, I had children looking out the window like, what is she doing? She's got a saw out there. We were lighting small fires, so there was quite a lot going on, and that really drew other teachers in. So I think sometimes leading by example. In my own studies and my own employment. So I work with an initial teacher education college, and I work on play-based education content. And really a lot of that content explores the traditional role of the teacher versus what the 21st century teacher is becoming. And the 21st century teacher is starting to kind of consider, well, what way are we structuring our classrooms? Do we need children at desks, or should they be in a different learning environment? And is the environment actually stimulating for their learning? And I think as our teaching is going through more and more transformation, especially with the inclusion of play-based learning, I think confidence will come with teachers that they don't need to have a quiet class, that they don't need to have everybody in order, and that they'll start to move beyond the confinement of the four walls of a classroom and consider strategies to engage children's learning in maybe an unstructured environment like outdoors. Yeah, that's helpful.
Thanks. Thanks,
If
Claire.
I can just interject there, at one stage I was very fortunate enough to go into a school where they had an after school gardening club, and I happened to come in one evening just after, you know, coming towards the end of the year, and they were having a party, and you know, they were cooking all the things they had grown in their gardening throughout the year. And it was amazing. There must have been 40, 50 children all sitting around as the teachers and some of the students got involved. Fantastic to see. And you realize like that if you have the confidence to bring children out, you know, after the first once or twice where they might be a bit giddy, children are very, very attentive and they get really engaged as well. So I'd quite agree with Mary Claire. Like, once children have that, you know, got over that, and teachers got the confidence to take children out, you really don't have problems. You know, I think the worry has always been, you know, will they run away? Will I be able to keep them under control and so on? But my own experience, and said what I saw that even, children really loved the outdoor, and they are really very good in that respect.
Thanks, Maura and Claire. Really a lot of food for thought. I could engage with this conversation all day, and I think most of us here could. However, I'm just aware that we've already gone over time and that we're just pushing up to the end of the symposium. Paddy, do you have any last words that you'd like to say to us to kind of, I'm going to unmute you now, if you just unmute your mic.
Now,
yeah.
Some of the chat is brilliant coming in. What a fantastic crowd of participants we have. I wish we could bottle them all together and send them out there around the country and you know, put the wind in their sails, because I think that's what's wrong with a lot of our environmentalists. There's nobody blowing wind in our sail apart from the Heritage Council. And a few more things like I'm not going to name them out, but I think it was Brendan Dunford there mentioned the biggest obstacles. In my opinion, it's the Department of Education, it's the DES. They put out a policy very recently, there last year, on well-being in the well-being in the primary school. There was hardly any mention of gardening or nature in it. You know, so there is no policy with the department about outdoor education. So hopefully that will change. But we need the big player like the department to be blowing wind in our sails to get our boats out onto the water. That's and
absolutely.
The web. Someone was asking about the bee hotel. I hate the word bee hotel. It's not a hotel. You don't spend the night there. It's a nursery. That's what it is. It's the comb for solitary bees. That's what we have. Yeah, they can. I bought that one in England from nurturingnature.org.uk. It's expensive, but it's just so well constructed.
Thank you, Paddy. I just had a thought. If everybody who is interested in furthering this conversation somewhat in another format, I don't know how that would look, or I haven't even kind of given it any thought. But you can put your emails in the chat box here. We can export this chat, so we'll be able to take them from there. So if people are interested in kind of, you know, just seeing if we could have another discussion on this, even if it was just via email someday, then just put or even if we could send resources out, you can put your emails into the chat box there. I'd like to thank Paddy and Des so much, and Claire and Maura, really, really great, really fascinating. Wish we had hours more for it. And I think I'd like to just quickly say thank you again to our sponsors, the